Good evening, everyone. Welcome you all to this Zoom Bank Audit Helpline webinar. In fact, we have a speaker from various zone of India, and we have our past president, C. Nitesh Morji, and who is doing very hard work to give a platform to all the members to gain the knowledge on various aspects of the assurance work assignments. Over to our Nitesh ji for welcoming.
Very thank you, Manu Rishi ji. Friends, this program is being organized by the Views Exchange and Central Calcutta CA Study Circle jointly. Welcome you all to this help desk. The idea behind was that while the bank audit is going on, the members may have queries which must be resolved by our speakers so that accordingly they can proceed with their audit assignment in a short span of time. That is why, friends, we have organized this 3 days bank audit query helpline. So welcome you all to this. I hope that this session will be great and will be helpful in discharging your duties. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nitesh ji. Now I hand over CA Hariram Agrawal ji to say a few words.
Thank you, Nitesh ji. Thank you, Manu Rishi bhai. I, on behalf of Central Kolkata CA Association and on my own behalf, welcome all the learned speakers from across the country who have joined this program or will be joining shortly to address the problems being faced while they are on bank audit. And whatever queries, whatever problems they are facing, whatever doubts they do have in their mind and working will be resolved by the learned speakers and in the program itself. So it will be of immense help. And we are simultaneously running the WhatsApp groups also. But maybe that WhatsApp group may be just one-way communication, or maybe a communication in which the problem are not properly explained or not properly addressed, because the whole text cannot be written, or the things cannot be explained by the learners, or maybe that the learned speakers who are here with us may not be in that particular group, WhatsApp group. So that problem may not be resolved in that level. But by doing this exercise, we hope that our learned members will be immensely benefited by the vast knowledge and experience of our learned speakers. As we know, we do have all the speakers from across the country, different regions, from Mumbai, from Delhi, from Kolkata, and from other places also. So they do have the varied knowledge and experience, and they will certainly help us in resolving the problems of our members who have joined in our this today's webinar. As rightly said by Nitesh ji, the program is on next 2 alternate days also, same time, same venue, that is Zoom. And whatever and whenever you do have problem, please come openly to discuss with our learned speakers. Over to Nitesh ji.
Manu Rishi ji, unmute karna padega.
Go ahead.
Thank you, C. Hariram ji. Thank you for your kind words and welcoming our speaker. So right now we have with us as a speaker C. Abhijit ji from Mumbai and C. Anil Saxena ji from Kanpur. I just brief their profile in 2 to 3 lines. C. Abhijit ji has experience of 34 years in his practice, and I have 25 years of experience in bank audit. And Anil Saxena ji have experience of basically he is graduate from Kanpur University and qualified chartered accountant in 1984, diploma in information system audit in 2003. He is the founder senior partner of Ms. Agrawal and Saxena, Kanpur, New Delhi, Pune and Lucknow based CA firm. He is author of many books published by Taxman Publication Limited, like Bank Audit, a Practical Guide for Bank Auditors, and many more in his basket. So with this, I like to proceed with the this webinar. We have
Lokesh ji has also come. Lokesh.
Okay, Lokesh ji also come. I'll just make him the
Welcome, Lokesh ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nitesh.
Sir, could you please on your video so that I can? It's already on. Yeah. So I also welcome C. Lokesh ji. He is LLB from Delhi University and DISA qualified with first rank, FAFD course qualified in 2018, concurrent audit certificate course in 2024-21, and currently he is partner in Mr. Syam S. Gupta and Company. His experience in audit of bank as a statutory auditor and concurrent auditor for more than 20 years. He is also a speaker on bank audit on various platforms. With this word, I would like welcome to Lokesh ji also on this platform. Welcome, sir, to this platform. Right now, we are going with open session of Q&A from members, so that we have our speaker can answer their query with their expertise. Over to all you, sir. Any member have any query can unmute himself and ask the question to the speaker. If member does not have any query, we can.
I will request the members, those who have query, kindly unmute themselves. Please unmute and ask query.
Sir, a very good evening. This is Muralidharan Chadargon from Chennai. Are you able to hear, sir?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, please carry on.
Actually, I have been ordered one branch where that one particular unit has got a maximum advance of around 60%. That comes under consortium of advances of around 10 banks. So that one of the bank that is where I am doing a statutory is Indian Overseas Bank. So what are the major reasons which I have to look into it, because that particular unit forming part of 60% of the total advance of the branch. Today, actually, I visited the unit, but when it comes to consortium from advances, because this is new to me, is there any major risk which is involved, or because more than 10 banks they are funded, because the turnover of the unit is around 2,500 crores.
So one question which I will like to ask you before I answer is, what is the exposure of IOB as a percentage to the total funding?
Total funding of all the banks.
Yes. Who's the lead bank? The second is, who's the lead bank?
Approximate you can say. 10%, 20%, 15%.
No, total. So total 2,500 crores hai. First is, so you take down what you should know. First is, let's say his turnover is 2,500 crores. What is his total funding? What is his sanctioned limits from various banks? Who's the lead bank? Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what you should know.
Yeah. Actually, this from IOB side, it is non-fund based is around 100 crores. Remaining is fund based another 100 crores. Totally, it's around 200 crores.
Agreed. So totally there is a limit of 200 crores. I want to know, or you should in your LFAR write down what is the outstanding, how much is the limit utilized, whether the limit is utilized in full or not. Secondly, you can look into the fact whether that account is an NPA or it is an SMA overdrawn or not. How are the repayment regularly? Then who's the lead bank? Is IOB a lead bank?
If no, sir. IOB... Previous year IOB was the lead bank, but this year it is Indian Bank has become a lead bank.
Fine. So if Indian Bank is the lead bank, then all the formalities of monitoring the account will be with the lead bank, and the data will be shared by the lead bank with the consortium members. Now, what you will need to do is, let's say your limit is about 100 crores, and what is the commensurate turnover of the borrower in our bank, that is Indian Overseas Bank. So let us say the total turnover is 2,500 crores. If 2,500 crores is the total turnover, I would really like to know how much is the total exposure of the borrower with all banks. That is, you find out. You have what is 100 crores is funded, 100 crores non-funded. What is the utilization which you find out? But what is the percentage to the total borrowing? And then if my 100 crores is my funded limit, how much is the turnover which is rooted in my bank compared to other banks? And so if the turnover is not routed through that bank, then
Yes.
that's something which you can comment on. Now, whether that account is an NPA in any of the bank, the lead bank will basically tell. But if the account is standard in any bank, the account is obviously a standard here. And since it is more than 100 crores, as per the annexure on LFAR, where any advance over 10 crores or any advance more than 10% of whichever is higher, since you have said it is 60% of the advance and more than 10 crores, then that annexure will have to be filled up by the branch and you will have to comment on any adverse features. If there are adverse features on documentation, on monitoring, on submission of data, or inspection or anything which is there, you can comment. Otherwise, you can just make factual observations, which may not be adverse comments, but this is just your observations which are in order. So there is nothing major which you need to do. It is only what you need to do in any other advance which will apply to a consortium advance, except for how much is your total share. Your point becomes much more in case you are the lead bank. Since you are not the lead bank, then the requirement is much lesser because it's the lead bank responsibility to actually monitor and convey it to other banks.
Okay, sir. One more thing is that actually the consortium details which is shared by only IOB bank to other banks on monthly basis, which I have just gone through in the records. But other banks, it's mandatory to share their details, or it is not required that I have to insist.
No, but if the details you are getting, why should you be bothered if other banks are getting the details or not? As far as you are getting the details, it's fine, right?
Right, sir. Right, sir. No problem, sir. So that's what
So
I
you,
exactly, because there was a 190 property is being offered as a title deeds. Since the SBI caps is as a trustee is holding entire documents, they are not allowing me to verify the title deeds. So
fine. So you can give a disclaimer to that effect that this is so and so, we have not verified. However, does the bank have a letter of representation from SBI caps that all the documents are in order? If it is there, you can say we have relied on this, which is in on record, that SBI Trusteeship Securities has given a certificate to the effect that all documents are in order and in their custody. If such a certificate is not there, you make a suggestion that this should be obtained and kept on record.
Right, I need to mandatorily have a copy of the consortium meeting of all the banks quarterly which they have held.
See, it should be ideally on record. If it is not on record, you suggest that these meetings are not on record and should be kept on record.
I have only 2 meetings they have shown to me. Other 2 meetings it's not there. However,
Then
I
you put
insisted.
it.
Yeah, right. So
You insist on it. If you're not getting it, you can make a mention in the LFAR that these minutes are not on record.
right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Kind of you, sir.
Yes.
Now, just I will like to state 2 things.
Yes,
One
sir.
is our primary duty is the true and fair view of the accounts. In case
Yes,
of
sir.
advances, if the account is an NPA, then we may need to pass an MOC first to reverse interest and make the provisioning. We can also, if the security classification is not correct, we'll need to change that. If the priority sector classification is not correct, we may need to change that. In the non-funded advances of guarantees, if the performance guarantee or financial guarantee classification is not stated right, we may need to change that. Now, whatever you are changing which impacts the balance sheet will be coming as a part of your auditor's report, because that would be a qualification or may necessitate an MOC. However, if there is anything which is qualitative, which does not impact your account, like you said, minutes of meeting are not on record, or XYZ, that letter for title deeds is not on record, that is something which will come in the LFAR. So as an auditor, one needs to be very clear what will come in the auditor's report, which will be a qualification of the true and fair view of the assets, liabilities, income or expenditure, and something which will come in the LFAR. If something is coming as a qualification, you can elaborate it in the LFAR, but something which is just qualitative, which is in the LFAR, can never come in the auditor's report if that amount is not material. Simple. Or if there is one. Yeah.
Yes, sir. One more important point is that actually the stock value as on 31st March 23 has to be compared with the audited financial statements with respect to the stock value which is submitted on 31/3 to the bank. But I found there is a variation of 10.7% is there. In the stock value, they include advances to parties 20 crores. So can I take that amount as, if I not included, it is coming below 10%. If I include that, it is coming more than 10%. The stock value as on
Yes, so
31/3
you can.
submitted to the bank, and as per the balance sheet certified by the auditors, it differs.
No, but will that impact the drop hour? Will that, as a result of the change in drop hour, that account will go into an
No,
NPA?
no. It is not. It is not any impact.
Ah, fine. If it doesn't have an impact, then it is okay. You can
But
just make a mention in the LFAR.
no problem, because if it exceeds 10%, the value as per the balance sheet, as per the stock statement submitted by the party, if it is exceeds more than 10%, we need to ignore, or we can leave it, because it is 10.70. Being a big unit, there is a 0.70%, 10.70% deviation is there. So can I go ahead with the ignore?
See, nothing has to be ignored. If there is a deviation, it is a deviation. You'll have to report the deviation. So whether it
Okay.
is 10.7%, whether it is 10.74%, any deviation which is not captured correctly in the drop hour calculation, you make a mention in the LFR. Now, the critical point is, as a result of the change, is the drop hour going below the outstanding? If the drop hour is consistently going below the outstanding for more than 3 months, then you might need to check whether that account becomes an NPA. That's the critical part. So that's
Okay.
what, if an account is standard, is turning into an NPA, you may need to qualify and pass an MOC. If it
Okay,
doesn't turn it, any other issue will find its way in the LFAR only. So
Uh.
this is the answer to the question, which will generally apply to all participants, all auditors. So they need to check, especially whether any issue, whether it needs to passing of an MOC, which will then need mention in the auditor's report, or it is only a qualitative issue like this, which will find its way in the LFAR. In any case, you'll need to mention it in the LFAR in detail. Simple.
No, sir. Simply they mentioned the advance to parties 20 crores that they have taken to the stock value, which I said that advance paid to parties, how it can be a form part of a stock value, when they said no, sir, the bank has allowed. We have a lot of advances.
So I would agree with them. Advances which are given to parties, basically that's a working capital, because the funds have been utilized to that extent. They can consider it as a part of the drop hour calculation. So anyway, if you get an advance from a customer, you are reducing it from drop hour. Same way, an advance given to a customer can also be considered for drop hour. Yeah.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Kind of you, sir. Thank you, sir.
We have one query in our chat box by Mr. Arun Agrawal. For an CC account where renewal was due on 16th August 2023, but it is still not renewed. However, bank has done an operating review for this file. Can we consider this as a standard account, or we need to mark it as an NPA?
So
Anything
Arunji,
above 180 days has to be marked as an NPA. 3rd October 23, beyond that, it will be an NPA.
Okay. So that will be NPA account?
Yeah, clearly.
Okay. Next query is, sir, how the liability on the interest capitalization on restructure account is standard assets be dealt with? So liability on interest capitalization on restructure account.
You don't have the persons attending the meeting. Are they on the chat box? I mean, it will be good if people can.
Mr. Manoj Kishan, can you please unmute yourself and have interaction with the speaker, please? I don't think he's there. Mr. Manoj Kishan.
And has the person from Chennai, has he gone back?
Mr. Chandrasekharan.
I think he's not there. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And I think, the best way to resolve the issues could also be if we could have a hopping kind of this thing, like, Abhijit could take one, the next one, Lokeshji could take the third one. Otherwise, who chooses?
Yeah, I understand your
who
point,
gets
sir.
what? It'll be,
So I guess Mr. Muralidharan is back. Mr. Muralidharan, can you please be unmute yourself? Anil sir want to have an interaction with you. Some technical issue maybe.
I think the next question can go to Lokesh then.
So any member have
I'm
any
very
other
happy
query?
you answering the questions. I'm ready
Sir,
to sit and listen.
I'm the online only, sir.
No, no.
Muralidharan from Chennai.
Yeah, sir, Muralidharan is here.
So Muralidharan, I just wanted to clarify because during the course of discussion, it appeared to me that, the conclusion was the identification of NPA would be done by the lead bank, whereas, the current scenario in the consortium as per the current master circular is every consortium member needs to classify an account as a performing or non-performing. So, you could still have a case where the lead bank has the funds with it, and if unless you have a confirmation from the lead bank saying that it is holding the funds on behalf of you, till such time your account would not be a standard account. So your identification as a standard or a substandard in consortium would be based on your own performance, like what is the record of recovery in the bank you're auditing, the branch you're auditing.
Okay, it was fine, sir. All the accounts in order. I have gone through that everything, and today also I visited the unit. It's performing operationally. I obtained the latest purchase sales figure.
Other things you've already discussed. I just thought that during the course of discussion there appeared to be some this thing, so I just wanted to clarify.
So I have to get confirmation from lead bank that any account.
If your record of recovery is fine and it is a performing asset, you can continue with that. Then you don't need it. But
No problem.
in case it is not that way, then you'll need a confirmation from the lead bank.
Right,
Sir,
sir.
this is Manoj Kishan. This is Manoj Kishan. Are you able to hear me? Hello.
Yes, Mr. Manoj, please continue.
Yeah. Sir, this is the query I raised, that the liability on interest capitalization on restructured account standard assets as well as restructured account NPA are appearing in the balance sheet for the last 2 years. Now, how that is to be dealt with?
So the whenever an account is restructured, there are one is they convert that into an FITL,
Correct.
right? And by reversing the income. So whenever it is done in respect of a non-performing account, you'll always have a corresponding credit in the corresponding FITL matching account in the other liabilities in Schedule 5.
Okay.
Right. So in case you have accounts where the advances are non-performing, then you need to ensure that a corresponding equal amount lies in the FITL in the other liabilities. Sometimes what happens is the recoveries made in the FITL account, you need to carry out a corresponding entry by debiting that FITL account in the liabilities and crediting the income, because that is what you reverse at the initial stage. So this is in respect of a non-performing NPA. You need to ensure that both the assets and the liabilities match. With respect to a standard account, it is only an FITL, so you only need to see the recovery. There will be no corresponding balance in the liability side unless a certain portion of it was reversed at any point of time, which probably has not been credited to the income.
No, sir, it was done sometime in the month of September 21, and it continues in the balance sheet for 23 as well as 24. Now,
So
my question is,
you're talking of an NPA or a standard account?
No, I'm talking about standard assets, sir.
Okay.
I mean, the details thereof is not available. They have done a JV sometime in 22, 23, and thereby they have liability on interest capitalization on restructured account standard assets.
So I'll tell you what would have happened. I mean,
Yes,
you would have to go back. So what would have happened is at the time of restructuring, they would have created an FITL, maybe maybe an NPA in 2021, and created and reversed the income and created the corresponding FITL in the Schedule 5, right?
Right, sir.
And over the years, the recovery in the FITL and the other balance would have come, and the account would have got upgraded to standard. But what was required of them was that whatever recovery is made in the FITL account, that needs to be reversed and pushed to the income account. So in
Right.
fact, if you see the account as of date, you'll probably see that there is no FITL.
No, there is no FITL. Exactly.
So if there is no FITL and there is a corresponding FITL in the Schedule 5
Right.
other liabilities, it's a clear case of, where you need to debit the FITL and credit the income. So this is, an entry which has not been passed in the earlier years.
So is it would be a part of MOC?
Yeah. You have to push it, you have to remove it from the Schedule 5 other liabilities and push it to the other income, to the interest income, whichever it is, whether it is interest
I
on
got your
term.
point, sir. I got your point. But what you say is I debit liability on interest capitalization, right?
Correct.
So
Right.
that it is knocked off. But I credit the income account, right?
Correct. And income, depending on whether it was, when it was, FITL was created, whether it related to CC account or a term loan. So correspondingly, you'll have to credit those accounts.
Okay. So kind of you. Wonderful, sir. Thank you. And so one more thing. May I? That's there is a bank's liability of banker checks greater than 3 years credited to charges account. It is appearing as a contra item, and in which I find that the increase pertains to 18, 19, 20, and number of X years. Now, if it is a contra, it does not really affect the balance sheet. But why at all there should be a debit and credit of the equivalent amount in the balance sheet?
I think it's similar to, having
Guarantee.
expired LCs and BGs in the off-balance sheet item. So,
Right.
I think finally, if they are bankers' checks which have already expired, and if they are holding it for control purposes, it's something different. But then, all off-balance sheet items, they do have inflation of off-balance sheet item has an impact on the CRAR. So you'll have to identify and see whether, there are any extraneous entries which need to be reversed. I can't,
I got your point, sir. Wonderfully explained, sir. Thank you.
So I like to add something here. Is this a
Please go ahead, sir.
policy? Is this the policy of the bank to have such entries like this? Because I have not seen it in most of the banks, like expired DDs and ER, there is a contra entry. If there is a DD which is issued and that DD is still payable, it will lie as a liability. If it is coming as a contra, if it is a
earlier, what RBI had suggested that if the banker is outstanding for more than 3 years, then it should be credited to charges account, right?
So if it is credited to charges account, then again the liability will be reversed. If they are keeping a contra for control purposes, that is if that is a policy. If that is a policy of the bank, you just get a representation from them that it is a policy of the bank. And accordingly, this will not be the issue only at your branch, it will be the issue at all branches of the bank. So maybe in your LFAR, you could just make a mention of it that this is what is there. So maybe you can just bring it to the attention of the central statutory auditors to do it appropriately. As you said, if the netting off has to be done for the CRAR purposes, then it will be done at the central office level.
Right, sir. Wonderful, sir. Thank you for guidance, sir.
Any other member have any query regarding to bank audit? And please unmute himself and speak up.
Sir, I do have one query.
Yes, sir,
There
please.
is one hospital financed by the bank branch, say to the extent of 50 crores of rupees. And the project is under construction. The hospital building is almost complete. Furniture is almost complete. All the major machines, equipments has been landed into the hospital's premises. And part of this project will be commencing very soon, and whole of the hospital will be completed and started in next 6 months. but the insurance has not been done of a single penny till date. They are of the opinion that we will do the insurance of all the equipments which run in aggregate, say around 7 to 8 crores of rupees. Building premises almost complete. They have not done the insurance coverage. So, what's your stand, sir?
Lokesh sir, please could you answer this
So,
query?
Hariramji, I think the insurance must have been done because in any case, the transfer of that insurable interest has been done. So the risk has been transferred unless until the hospital claims that the risk of any damage to the equipment in terms of maybe a fire or anything else is not transferred to them and it is still lying at the supplier's end. So if that is the case that the supplier is still responsible for it, which does not seem to be the case, then I think the insurance should be taken. And in case it is not taken, then you are creating a risk for yourself. And of course, the bank is financing such a transaction. So it is invariably creating a risk for the bank also. So the insurance must be taken.
I am of the opinion that the building is 80% complete. Machinery we not installed yet. So complete insurance of all the products and building infrastructure should be done, as bank has already incurred say financing of say 50 crores of rupees, and out of any natural calamity or may happen, say fire, earthquake. So there is
I guess some technical issue with Hariramji. Network issue. Let him join back, then we'll have discussion over there. Any other member have any other query regarding the bank audit?
No, so I will generally like to add on this, which is very generic for all members who are attending. Now, this is something which doesn't impact the balance sheet. It is an LFAR item. And if an auditor feels in a particular way, he can always state what he wants by way of a suggestion in the LFAR. There is nothing which will stop him. If he is of the opinion that there is a risk, it is his judgment, he can always state so. What is the harm? I would say better be safe than be sorry. Simple. So just state it in the LFAR.
So Hariramji is back.
So I'm not talking of Mr. Hariram's issue in particular.
I guess,
I'm saying generically, if you have an issue where you feel that you feel in a particular way, an auditor is entitled to his opinion. He is entitled to his audit judgment. So he can state so. The LFAR is for these issues only.
So till the time we don't have any further query, can you please?
So members, if you have any query, kindly unmute. Request members to unmute and ask query.
So till the time we don't have any query, I will just ask speakers to have like some kind of contribution towards the bank audit. What general things we should keep in our mind while doing the bank audit? That these things must be go through while doing the bank audit. So if we could start with the answer.
Manu, I think most of us, most of the auditors, they are nearing completion.
Yeah,
I don't think,
but the last tip of that we can touch upon on that things.
Because the number of queries also is going down basically because
everyone have around to complete the audit.
People have either signed off or are in the process of signing off.
Correct. I agree.
Or else, in case this live, this helpline is slowly, the demand is going down, you could probably, what you could do is share the telephone numbers and then ask them to call. Because what I've seen is, WhatsApp, you give a reply, you don't know the actual facts, then he comes back with another question, and finally you realize that, one is not able to keep answering. So probably, the person who's raising the query, he also does not get satisfied. So
yes, totally agree with you.
And a shorter way of resolving that would be that, probably calls one of us and then gets the reply. That'll be fast and quick.
So I'll just share your number with the members
Yeah,
in the chat box.
yeah. That's the best
So
way.
that will be grateful for all the members that they have a direct interaction with you. Members, I am writing down the number of the speaker in the chat box. You can note down the numbers and you can have verbal communication with the speaker when and as you need it.
In the meantime, we will request Lokesh sir to give his concluding remarks, sir.
Sir, conclusion. So I can only say one thing that we all know what is happening in bank audit, and generally this time I have been telling everybody that please stop taking tension. In case you raise a query or you raise a MOC, what would happen to the branch or to the bank? So stop taking tension for the bank or the branch. Start doing your work as an auditor. Stop thinking about the auditing in terms of the what impact my query would have on their work. Because when we are doing an audit, we are basically an independent person. And in case we don't point out any issues which we found out, ultimately does not find way in our audit report or does not get corrected by MOC, then ultimately we have done the same mistake which the branch has done. A lot of time people tell me, and I'm sure Anilji would agree, he must be also receiving a lot of requests, and Abhijit Bhai also would agree. So a lot of time people are worried that in case I do this, then say 20% of the advances of the branch would become an NPA. I tell them, why you take tension about it? Let the branch or the bank take tension. In case you feel that what you are doing is right, then you have every right to do whatever you want to do. In any case, if you don't do it, it is not your choice actually. We sometimes forget the idea that it is something which we have to decide. So it is not your decision. The NPA norms are very objective. In case an account is becoming an NPA, you do not have a choice in not declaring that an NPA. If it is not becoming an NPA, you cannot declare that account as an NPA. So it is not a subjective criteria in any ways. It is a very objective criteria, and don't get into pressure or self-thinking in the terms of what impact my work or my audit queries would have on the bank. That is not your work. That is not what you have to think about. You have to only think that you do your work to the best of your abilities in the manner you are expected to do. And whatever happens thereafter, it is the problem of the bank or the branch. You don't need to be worried about it. You don't need to even consider that while you're preparing your report. This is only the thing I think. During my course of discussion with a lot of members, I have felt that we are too worried about what impact it would have on the branches. So I think we need to be an auditor actually. With doing audits for a lot of private clients, we have stopped thinking like an auditor actually. So it is very important we start thinking like an auditor and start working like an auditor. Otherwise, it is going to harm us personally also, and it is going to harm the profession also.
So I'll just add to what इन्होंने बोला कि one is an audit is an expression of an opinion, and it is an independent auditor's opinion. So I think we need to, it's our judgment and it's conflict without any undue interest or influence.
Manuji, there is one question which has come
Correctly
on
said. I'm
gold
just
loan
going to take up
repayment.
it. So the
I think
query,
this is,
yeah,
let me just
query is please
speak
put
about
light
it.
on existing gold loan
Gold loan
repayment
repayment out of the
out
new
of
gold
new
loan
gold
with the
loan
same
on
security.
same security.
So this is something which I think there are two major themes which I see this year. One is, of course, regarding gold loans, and one is the old scheme, old favorite one is regarding KCC. So as far as gold loan is concerned, my opinion on this is very clear. If on a basis of an existing security, which is the jewel packet, if another loan is given to basically roll over the existing loan, then it is something which is not permitted. It is basically amounting to a evergreening of a loan, and something which I do not accept as something which is can be accepted as a settlement of the earlier liability. So in case you are finding such issues, and you will find, we know because of our personal experience with branches, and especially branches which are in the south side of India, where gold loans are more prevalent, frankly, you will find such issues. And generally, our view has been that this is not something which is an acceptable way of settling the old gold loan. And in case you find such cases, then appropriately you can take it up in your audit report, or in case you find you decide to do it, you can also take it up through your MOCs also. But generally, the branch would not be happy about putting a MOC in such cases. So I think the audit report would be the right place to actually take it up and put it appropriately in your main audit report. Of course, LFAR would have a comment on the modus operandi, but the main audit report would definitely have an impact there on such cases.
I think just to add to that, the DFS Ministry of Finance on 27 February 2024, they asked all the public sector banks to review 100% of the gold loans which have been sanctioned after 1st January 2022, a period of 27 months. And they've asked all the public sector banks to review it from three angles. Number one, the valuation, because there were reports that the valuation was being done by not registered valuers, but by valuers who are the internal officers of the bank. Number two, the collection charges, and third, the most important was the evergreening, because the banks, they said in that advisory to the public sector banks that what banks were doing was they were giving top-up loans based on the increase in the gold price, the surge in the gold price. So what will, let's say I give a loan against 100 rupees LTV of 75. I give a loan next year, the same 100 rupees becomes 125, the LTV goes up. So instead of, like Lokesh said, instead of a credit coming in, the rollover happens through that extra top-up loan which I gave. So in my opinion, I think, I would go a step further, and I would advise all the auditors to actually, since there is a complete review which is being asked by the Ministry of Finance, because they have reports that, these top-up loans have been given for evergreening. My advice would be that, please try and push MOCs in all such accounts, because they are clearly cases of evergreening. They are not performing accounts for sure, because similar things happened also in NBFCs. I think, we'll have to go by that. In fact, many banks have already carried out reviews, got concurrent auditors to get all the gold loans reviewed from 1st January 22 during this period of 1 month.
And I guess, sir, this evergreening thing is also not permitted in other facility. You cannot take another facility to write off the first facility, like paying off the first loan of first facility.
Yeah.
So the same, and Abhinav ji is saying, sir, bank says RBI IRAC circular does not prohibit the same thing. And repayment of gold loan from the another loan is not prohibited by the IRAC norms.
I think the IRAC norms are clear that you cannot give a loan to evergreen the other.
There has been a lot of RBI circulars which talks about evergreening, and it is something which is definitely not permitted. Now, asking for a specific line in any RBI circular not permitting this would be amounting to, then maybe I will ask the branch manager, show me RBI circular which tells you to put a key in the shutter of the branch and ask it, the shutter to be rolled up. Then you are asking questions which are something which is not even expected to be there in the RBI circulars.
So both, I would like to go one step further. Is evergreening is technically a fraud. Now we are at least courteous and decent enough not to label this as a fraud, because this is a generic policy which is done by the banks, and maybe RBI has not been very vocal about giving their view, nor has central statutory auditors at the central level taken a tough stand on it. So as a branch auditor, I feel one, we should pass an MOC definitely. If it's not an MOC, I think we should quantify and qualify it appropriately in our audit report. But the qualification should definitely be there. If the MOC is not being signed by the branch head, you definitely put it in the LFAR that this is the impact which will have on the PNL, this will the impact which will have on the assets and liabilities, and you state the entry which needs to be passed.
So there's one more query from CA Navdeep Sharma. 10 crore or 10% of sanction limit or balance outstanding. Like in 50 crore advance branch, sanction limit is 6 crore, but balance outstanding 4.5 crore. Is it covered above? So, Navdeep ji could not understood your query.
I think he's talking about large advances in case of LFAR.
Yeah.
So
LFR.
basically, the large advances, the words uses 10% of the fund base plus non-fund base of the branch you have to total up, and then take 10% of it. So 10% and then 10 crores, whichever is less.
Is lower.
And that is basically talking about exposure. So exposure would basically be defined as your outstanding balance or the sanction limit, whichever is higher. So in case this, ideally the outstanding balance should not exceed the sanction limit. But in any case where it is exceeding the outstanding balance or the sanction limit, whichever is higher, would constitute the exposure basically.
So यहाँ पे technically there is one problem. At a lot of cases, the banks only take the outstanding and calculate on the basis of outstanding. They don't take calculate this on the basis of the sanction limit. Now, this will only have two effects. One, the auditor can insist the bank to do this because for these large advances, there's a specific annexure which needs to be filled. And that annexure is basically filled by the branch and given to us. And we only write the adverse comments on it. So irrespective, the adverse comments, we can cover those advances in complete and write those adverse comments. If the branch is not filling it up for us, we can actually state so that the branch has not filled it up based on the exposure, that is the sanction limit, but taken the lower of the outstanding which is there and not filled up the documents for us. But anyway, we need to cover that as top advances, large advances, and any adverse comments, we need to mention it in the LFAR.
Sir, I will add to it that practically speaking, in case of branches, other figures are readily not available. Only the balance outstanding, that is the loan as on 31st March, advances as on 31st March is available. So normally, most of the bank and branches calculate this large borrowers on the basis of advances as on 31st March year end, that this much is our total advance. So let it be 10% of that or 10 crores, whichever is. So in most of the cases, they are calculating, sir.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. The branches calculate it on the basis of the outstanding. They don't calculate it on the basis of the exposure, which is the sanction limit. So the point is, if they are doing it, well and good. If they are not doing it, anyway, it is up to you to cover it. And as a large advance, anyway, they have not covered it. You'll anyway cover it. You cover it. Simple. मैक्सिमम क्या होगा, बैंक वो एनेक्सर्स फिलअप करके आपको नहीं देगा ना, वो एनेक्सर्स भले उन्होंने नहीं दिया, आप तो उसको कवर कर ही रहे हो एज अ लार्ज एडवांस एंड एनी एडवर्स इश्यूज यू आर कमेंटिंग, राइट?
यस यस। राम साहब, मतलब इसका कि हमें वो लेना है सारा, मतलब 10% आउटस्टैंडिंग का ना देखें, सैंक्शन का देख लें।
Yeah.
So I would go by the exposure. I would go by the exposure, but अगर आपको आउटस्टैंडिंग से भी मिल रहा है, काफी ब्रांचेस वैसे कर रही है, किसी ने मेजर ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं लिया है, but anyway, as part of our duty is to comment only on the adverse portion of that. Anyway, let us cover that and do our duty. In his case, these guys have not filled up the annexures, which is fine. You can state that they have not done it on the basis of the exposure. They have done it basis of the outstanding. You can make a mention of that in your LFAR. But anyway, you continue to report on the outstanding adverse features which are there.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So nice, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one more query. Various CC account not renewed from last 2 years. What to do? Anil ji, could you
No,
please?
no issue in that, sir. If the CC account has not been renewed beyond 180 days, there is no option. All quick reviews, everything has to be within that 180 days only.
When he's very clear, I'll just add one thing. ये क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? I think first we should question why this is not happening. As a process, there is a certain expectation, certain duty, certain responsibility, certain accountability of the branch. And if that is not being done, I think apart from the NPA classification, which is good, I think you should state it as a significant deficiency in supervision, review, and monitoring. And I think this should come in bold. Now, the other part is, which I think something which should be of a worry is, if the branch is under concurrent audit, why has the concurrent auditor not pointed it out? Technically, please educate our concurrent auditors to include that, and they should have pressurized it and insisted that this account be made an NPA 1 year back. So technically, एक साल पहले वो NPA होगा, तो इस टाइम पे वो doubtful होगा, substandard भी नहीं होगा. So I'll go one step further.
I'll only add one thing, I think, which is very important. Why we actually sometimes forget why this criteria of non-financial parameter was included by RBI in the guidelines itself. Please understand, mostly where the accounts are not getting renewed for such a long period, the reason would be not because the documents are not there. The reason would be there is some problem in the account, which is basically in terms of either the business has closed down or the business does not support the limit to be continued at the same level. So the bank generally what they does is, rather than decreasing the limit and taking a risk in terms of getting the account turning into an NPA, sometimes what they do is actually they inform the customer that the limit cannot be renewed at the same level and you have to reduce the balance up to a certain limit. But on the face of the document, they will continue to show a short-term review kind of a situation where, or a ad hoc review, and the limit would be continued at the same level. So the reason why the account is what Abhijit also said, so supporting that only, that ultimately the reason is very important. And in case, say, if it is only some delay of a few days, maybe you can still take a call. Even if you look at the IREX circular, it is talking about some short-term deficiencies. But if it is a delay of 2 years, I don't see any justification coming from the bank to not renew an account for 2 years, actually. So it is something which clearly falls within the definition of an NPA.
तो सर आपका ही मैं ऐड करता हूँ, 2 साल है यानी बेसिकली उसके फाइनेंशियल्स नहीं है, और फाइनेंशियल्स नहीं आ रहे, इसके लिए फाइनेंशियल्स आर नॉट गुड, दैट इज व्हाई दे आर नॉट बीइंग
Yes,
सबमिटेड. द
absolutely.
सेकंड इज आई विल आल्सो
Otherwise,
लुक इनटू द क्रेडिट टर्नओवर
yes,
भी नहीं है, फाइनेंशियल्स भी नहीं है. इफ माय लिमिट का रफली 5 टाइम्स तो मेरा टर्नओवर होना चाहिए, मेरा टर्नओवर ही नहीं है, जस्ट मेरा इंटरेस्ट सर्विस हो रहा है, सो दैट मींस अकाउंट इज डेफिनेटली वीक. And with other parameters, I think it's a fit case to be classified as an NPA. But the point is, you should also look into the fact that the branch is actually hiding this account from the fact that it should be classified as an NPA, which is not a good, I think, a governance issue. So maybe I would raise this point even higher, that this is something, an attempt indirectly to reduce the amount of NPAs by just doing some short reviews or something. But that one should go in depth and find out what the real reason.
Sir, I have a couple of questions. Can I come in?
So I'll just I'll just close the last question. They are receiving interest, but they are only receiving the interest. There is no turnover. So the interest is received to the extent only that it meets the minimum criteria. So अगर 100 रुपया इंटरेस्ट है तो 100 रुपया 50 पैसे से आ रहे हैं, टर्नओवर कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, बिकॉज टर्नओवर नहीं है. दे आर ओनली मेंटेनिंग द मिनिमम थ्रेशोल्ड टू अवॉइड द अकाउंट बीइंग एन एनपीए बाय लेटर ऑफ लॉ. बट इफ बाय अदर स्पिरिट द अकाउंट नीड्स टू बी क्लासिफाइड एज एन एनपीए बिकॉज कोई रिव्यू ही नहीं हुआ है, then I think we should go ahead and be strict as per the spirit.
Yeah, Priyanka, you were asking some question. Priyank.
Yes, sir. I have a couple of questions. जैसे सीसी का जब हम लोग डिस्कस कर रहे थे तो मेरे पास में भी मतलब आई हैव अ कपल ऑफ केसेस वेयर द सीसी लिमिट इज अप्रोक्सीमेटली 35 lakhs. पूरा साल में 5 लाख रुपए इंटरेस्ट चार्ज हुआ, वो 5 लाख रुपया दिया, बट वही कोई डेबिट क्रेडिट कोई ट्रांजैक्शन नहीं है पूरा साल में. एंड मतलब सर देयर आर केसेस जहाँ 3-4 साल से रिव्यू नहीं हो रहे हैं, द बैलेंस शीट्स आर नॉट बीइंग सबमिटेड. वो लोग बोलते हैं कि उसके पास में प्रॉपर्टी है, मतलब खाली उसके वजह से वो एनपी नहीं कर, बट अगेन उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता बिकॉज property is a collateral security, not a primary security also. And जब कोई काम ही नहीं हो रहा है, transaction ही नहीं हो रहा है, तो why should I not classify it as an NPA? I mean, isn't it absolutely a fit case for NPA, as you already pointed out? Yeah.
Priyank, just 2 or 3 points to
Yes,
this thing. One, in NPA identification, you don't look at the security at all. It
Yeah.
is a record of recovery, right? So that's the basic premise. Secondly, your case is a fit case of inherent weakness as defined under para 4.2.6 of the RBI Master Circular.
Mm.
So where there are only solitary credits or a few credits for this thing, it's a clear case of inherent weakness. So you start looking at other things. So the only possibility of your account still being performing could be if the borrower is into multiple banking. So you probably then need to ask for the GST return, find out if there is a turnover which is happening elsewhere.
Right.
If that will be the case, then the DP would be justified. But in case this is sole banking, and the only credits are like a term loan, then obviously there is no business running. It is a clear case where you can downgrade the account, justify or this thing on the inherent weakness and etc. I mean, with no turnover, there's no DP. And if debtor has been financed, then your GST returns would also help you in saying that there are no debtors which are outstanding for the last 180 days or whatever.
Right.
So
Perfect.
just
Thank
to
you.
add,
I think one
just to
more thing
add,
which you need to keep
Yes.
in mind is that now RBI also does not allow that in case you are maintaining a CC account, especially if it is more than 5 crore, there is a limit with some bank. They do not allow you to open a current account with other banks also. So there is a specific prohibition, and
Yeah.
rather they have been very, very strict, and the banks have been forcing customers to close CC current accounts with them. So earlier it used to do happen that he may be maintaining a CC account with one bank and current account with other bank where the turnover might have been was used for basically parking the turnover. Now the chances of that happening is also getting very, very
Very
remote.
remote.
Right. So in these cases, there is a very good question to be asked, where is the turnover? Whether the business is still operating, because this is something which is a real concern now. And because of the RBI regulatory change, whether it was there earlier also, but it used to say that only NOC is required, which generally banks did not used to take also. So now, because of that change and the very tough stance of the RBA on this issue, I think in case the turnover is not there in the CC account, chances of they having a current account where there is a turnover is also very, very low now. So these accounts are likely, specifically, I don't see a reason why they should not fall within the category of an NPA account.
And generally, the turnover should be, sir, approximately 4 to 5 times of the CC limit that I'm having.
yes.
What is the
Of
general
course.
trend?
So
But
this is
not necessary actually. I mean,
not necessary, but
yeah.
this is something where most of the bank would not be too happy about giving maybe a limit which is more than like 4 times or 5 times of their annual turnover. And this is not something which is a criteria per se.
Okay.
So sometimes banks do have a policy of giving limits based upon the expected turnover also in certain cases. It is not generally a CC, it is more so in case of a loan against property also.
Yeah,
So
right.
this is not something which is a ground rule, but of course, this can be considered a good rule in the terms of because it is based upon the experiences of the bank in terms of how a business actually operates.
Okay.
So the other thing is a lot of private banks are giving this as a mortgage loan technically, or a business loan against property. So if they are giving the issue that there is a property and there is a collateral, then why is it given as a cash credit? So you can question the rationale also and the bank policy in this regard. So if you could also make a suggestion that such loans should never be given as cash credits when it's difficult to monitor.
And sir, in a lot of cases, the documentation is very weak. So what is happening is they are mentioning that the stock, stock has a margin say of 25%, debtors have a margin of 40%, right? So there are three different documents where the margin rates are different, right? They say it is a pre-printed format, and I've just joined about 6 months back or whatever. And I mean, which document do you eventually rely on?
Sanction letter.
Sir, in the sanction letter only, there are 3 different rates given, 3 different haircuts given.
So whatever is the haircut you apply.
I mean, and the borrower is deducting something else only.
So that is
So
wrong. The
that
branch
is,
should not accept it. Sanction
yeah,
letter
it
is
is.
supreme. Simple.
Uh,
Sanction letter is the Bhagavad Gita. Simple. उसके
uh,
आगे आप जाने दो. Simple. Accepted है
and
borrower का sanction letter. उससे ही करना है. जो बाकी हो रहा है वो गलत है. You can make it out in the LFAR. If as a
right.
result of the sanction haircuts, your drop hour is continuously lesser than the
30
outstanding,
limit. Yeah.
then technically it can classify as an NPA also.
Right. And sir, in case of a term loan, it's a housing loan. The amount is say 1.22 CR, right? The loan was given somewhere around February 2020. It had a moratorium of 3 years, right? So it ends on February 23, March 23 से EMI start deducting, right? Sir, इस केस में ऐसा है that the interest amount till date is approximately 25 lakh rupees. अभी तक वो खाली 15 लाख रुपया जमा किया है, ठीक है। वो 25 लाख रुपया पूरा ब्याज भी नहीं दिया, खाली 15 लाख रुपया दिया। तो जो मेरा लिमिट है आज के दिन में, उसका जो आउटस्टैंडिंग अमाउंट खड़ा है वो 1.32 CR हो गया है अगेंस्ट अ टर्म लोन ऑफ हाउसिंग लोन ऑफ 1.22 CR, राइट। when I said that this is a clear case of NPA, क्योंकि उसको पहले तो वो पूरा का पूरा प्रिंसिपल सर्व नहीं कर पाया, उसके बाद साल भर का पूरा इंटरेस्ट सर्व नहीं कर पाया, उसके बाद में जो साल भर का प्रिंसिपल पोर्शन था दैट इज ऑल्सो पेंडिंग, राइट। सो देयर अगेन गोइंग बैक टू द कि ये मोरेटोरियम था, इसमें ये था वो था, आरबीआई का एक सर्कुलर था। सर मेरे ख्याल से कोई भी सर्कुलर में मोरेटोरियम में भी आज तक मार्च 24 तक तो सारा का सारा पैसा आ ही जाना चाहिए था ना। और देयर इज अ डिस्कनेक्ट व्हिच देयर इज समथिंग व्हिच आई मिस।
There is nothing you have missed. It is a clear cut NPA. I think don't even waste your time discussing with them.
राइट, ठीक है।
Priyank, one more
Better.
thing which I would tell you,
Yes.
just having RBI circular does not mean there is some restructuring which has happened and somehow
हाँ,
there is a increase in some the payment schedule or something.
हाँ,
Ultimately, something has to be done positively by the bank. Whether
right.
it would amount to a restructuring or not, whether after restructuring it would slip into NPA, that's a second chapter. Ultimately, just saying there is a RBI circular would not help in any ways. There has to
Yeah.
be some change in the schedule which has to be done. If there is
हाँ,
no
so
change in the schedule which
हाँ,
has been done, no
हाँ.
RBI circular would be able to save the account. Thank you.
Absolutely. They are saying that the tenure was eventually earlier 360 months. They've changed it to 384 months. I said it will still not make much of a difference because
If
that
if
happened somewhere
they
in September,
change it,
October.
if they
Yeah.
change it, it would
Hmm.
amount to a
Restructuring.
restructuring
Hmm.
unless until they give a specific reason which is uh, something more than the reason required from the it was not a request from the customer side and something else. So if it amounts to a restructuring, just because the account has got restructured, the account would in any case slip into an NPA category
But
Yes.
on the date of restructuring.
Priyank, you could probably, because you're talking of 2021, just look into the account and find out whether, it was restructured as per the COVID norms which came out. If it was
No,
not
sir.
done that way, then,
Yeah.
your answers are clear.
Yeah, it was not restructured because of COVID, sir. They are showing a SBI or a RBI circular जहाँ पे because there was a change in repo rate increased drastically during that 1 year. Because of that, they said that they will give an option to the home buyer whether to increase the tenure or adjust your interest accordingly. That is it. They've not been able to show anything from the borrower side also whether he is willing to increase the tenure or change his EMI or anything. They've just showed me that one circular. That is about it. So, I mean, I've said that
So,
according to me, it's an NPA. If there is something else that you can, show or prove it to me, it's not an NPA. I mean, you can do that. But otherwise, it's a clear cut case of NPA.
so
Yeah.
I'll just add one thing to this. It's not
Yes, sir.
replying to your question. I'm answering this to everybody in generic way. See, as an auditor, let's back our knowledge, let's back our gut, our instinct. Simple.
Hmm.
Just because the bank is coming out with some RBI circular, show me the RBI circular. Show me where it is applicable. Otherwise, you be safe rather than be sorry. You express your audit judgment. You give your facts. You are very clear that the moratorium ended on 31st March 23. First 4/23 से principal installment आना चाहिए था. Principal
Correct.
एक भी नहीं आया है. Interest भी पूरा serve नहीं हुआ है. the account is clear cut NPA, you give your justification, you qualify, you reverse the unrealized interest, you make the provision as if it's substandard, and go ahead. Clear. आपका खाली, if you are making a qualification, you should state your valid reasons for doing it. You should give an opportunity as per SA 705 when you are qualifying that this is the reason I want to qualify.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
I think we end up with the query for today.
There is one question which is left, Manu, which is KCC not renewed for more
Yes,
than
KCC,
180 days.
correct.
Is it NPA? So,
Yes, sir, please.
see, I'm not able to understand the concept of renewal in KCC. KCC actually does not work like a CCOD actually, frankly. So you will have to re-understand the concept of renewal in KCC. The KCC limit is given for 5 years at a time. And the concept of renewal works very differently in KCC. If the person is there, he can actually, we can understand what exactly he wants to say. Sometimes people get confused with repayment with renewal actually. So if the person is there, he can maybe open up and ask the question what specific issue he has on this one.
सर ऐसे है कि 2016 में केसीसी सैंक्शन हुआ 5 साल के लिए।
ठीक है सर,
2021 में उसको इन्होंने आगे उसको रिन्यू करना था 5 साल के लिए,
ठीक
कुछ
है।
भी नहीं करा, कोई रिव्यू नोट भी नहीं लगाया, कुछ नहीं करा, वो एज इट इज ही पड़ा। वो सिस्टम उसको एनपीएम में नहीं डाला। नॉर्मली केसीसी में भी तो 180 डेज वाला कॉन्सेप्ट चलता ही है ना, 5 साल के बाद अगर वो पीरियड एक्सपायर हो गया तो।
सर कहाँ, किस एरिया का है ये?
एग्रीकल्चर का सर।
नहीं 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 नहीं, मैं एरिया
पंजाब में,
पूछ रहा हूँ।
पंजाब पंजाब।
पंजाब में कभी फ्लड वर्ड वो वाला एरिया तो नहीं है?
कुछ नहीं,
नेचुरल
कुछ नहीं
कैलामिटी?
सर, कुछ नहीं, सब बढ़िया चल रहा है।
ठीक है, नहीं बिकॉज उस पीरियड में नेचुरल कैलामिटी में कहीं रिस्ट्रक्चर नहीं हुआ।
ना 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 2021 के बाद मतलब फाइल की मिट्टी निकाली नहीं है, मतलब वो एज इट इज पड़ा और सिस्टम में भी वो कुछ नहीं हुआ, तो उसको तो मतलब
सर, व्हाट
180
अबाउट द रीपेमेंट सर? व्हाट अबाउट द रीपेमेंट? लास्ट
रीपेमेंट भी ऐसा
दिया
हाल
था
ही है,
ना?
मतलब इंटरेस्ट ही सर्विस हुआ और कुछ नहीं हुआ। अब केसीसी में तो 2 साल में पूरा प्रिंसिपल भी वापस आ जाना चाहिए ना।
बिल्कुल सर, प्रिंसिपल प्लस इंटरेस्ट बोथ हैज टू कम क्लियरली। इसलिए मैंने कहा कि इट इज नॉट एक्चुअली सीसी, इट हैज अ
हाँ जी,
डिफरेंट वे ऑफ वर्किंग एक्चुअली। तो अगर
तो जो बैंक
इंटरेस्ट ही
जो
सर्विस
इंसिस्ट
हो
कर
रहा
रहे
है
हैं आज
तो
की डेट में सर, जो बैंक इंसिस्ट कर रहे हैं ना केसीसी में, वो कह रहे हैं 3 साल में प्रिंसिपल और इंटरेस्ट आएगा, 2 साल वाला तो कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है कोई भी। शॉर्ट टर्म क्रॉप में तो बनता है 21 महीने नॉर्मली, जो अपना इंस्टीट्यूट का गाइडेंस नोट भी कहता है।
सर 21 महीने बनेगा या 24 महीने बनेगा? क्योंकि इंस्टीट्यूट का गाइडेंस नोट जो उसमें मार्केटिंग पीरियड देता है वो 3 महीने का देता है। जनरली बैंक्स हैव स्टार्टेड गिविंग 6 मंथ्स एज अ मार्केटिंग पीरियड। तो वो 21 नहीं बनेगा तो 24 बन जाएगा, बट अल्टीमेटली दी
24 बन जाएगा, टू बी
गाइडलाइन।
मोर ऑन सेफर साइड वी कैन टेक
हाँ
27
हाँ,
आल्सो,
बस
कोई दिक्कत नहीं, 3
पर
महीने
हाँ,
और
ऑफ
दे देते
कोर्स
हैं।
द आरबीआई गाइडलाइंस इज वेरी क्लियर कि वो 24 महीने के अंदर अकाउंट वुड स्लिप इनटू एनपीए कैटेगरी इन केस ऑफ शॉर्ट टर्म क्रॉप, और जहाँ पे सिंगल क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न नहीं है। मतलब पंजाब में तो है ही नहीं क्या सिंगल क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न।
पंजाब में मल्टीपल
उन
क्रॉप है
केस,
ना, तो 24 महीने
हाँ हाँ,
में
तो वहां
आ
पे
जाना चाहिए
वहां
एज अ
पे वो
प्रिंसिपल।
24 महीने में इट वुड स्लिप इनटू एनपीए कैटेगरी, देयर इज नो डाउट।
सिस्टम सिस्टम नहीं कर रहा है। बैंक कह रहा है जी देखो 24 महीने में उसने इंटरेस्ट पे कर दिया, प्रिंसिपल वाला तो कोई कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है।
So,
नहीं सर, वो क्लियरली लिखा हुआ है उसके अंदर। अगर आप केसीसी का
हाँ, वो
जो
इंस्टॉलमेंट ऑफ प्रिंसिपल
डायरेक्ट
और इंटरेस्ट
सर्कुलर
बिल्कुल क्लियर
देखेंगे,
लिखा हुआ है, बिल्कुल लिखा हुआ है।
क्लियरली लिखा
सिस्टम
हुआ है
क्यों नहीं मार्क कर
प्रिंसिपल
रहा है, ये
प्लस
समझ नहीं आ
इंटरेस्ट।
रहा है, सिस्टम क्यों नहीं कर रहा है। जब आरबीआई ने सारा ऑडिट कर दिया है, ये क्यों नहीं कर रहा।
नहीं
नहीं
सर, आरबीआई ने ऑटोमेट नहीं किया सर,
एग्रीकल्चर नहीं
ऑटोमेशन
ऑटोमेट
बैंक
कर
ने
रहा है।
किया है। और जो ऑटोमेशन करता है उसके पास स्विच ऑन करने का भी राइट है, तो स्विच ऑफ करने का भी राइट है।
नहीं, so
तो
I'm there is a very pertinent question which आपने पूछा है कि एनपीए ऑटोमेशन हुआ है तो ऑटोमेशन में ये आ क्यों नहीं रहा है? सो दिस इज द प्रोसेस गैप इन द ऑटोमेशन. So apart from classifying this account as an NPA or whatever, I think you should make observation in the LFR to the central statutory auditor कि ये NPA automation में भी gap है and that gap should be corrected. So it's not just the
सर मैं तो
transaction.
उसको मेन बोर्ड में लिखने जा रहा हूँ कि इतने सारे केस जो आ रहे हैं एनपीए के, ये
नहीं
क्यों
नहीं
आ
तो
रहे हैं, जब
main
सिस्टम ऑटोमेट होना चाहिए तो वहीं आना चाहिए,
नहीं नहीं
होना
नहीं
चाहिए।
तो टेक्निकली दिस इज अ प्रोसेस गैप राइट. इट विल कम इन द
क्या
LFR. आप ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू के लिए क्वालिफाई कर सकते हो ना मेन ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में. मेन ऑडिट रिपोर्ट
हाँ
में
जी
एनपीए के लिए जो भी इम्पैक्ट है वो एसेट लाइबिलिटी इनकम एक्सपेंडिचर में तो आप क्वालिफाई करो, बट ये प्रोसेस गैप है दैट विल कम वेरी स्ट्रांगली एज अ डेफिशिएंसी इन द एलएफएआर ना.
या बिल्कुल
Or maybe you want to qualify, you can qualify in the internal control over financial reporting because वो weakness है. As a result एनपीए का फिगर नहीं आ रहा है तो फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग गलत हो रही है, तो वहां भी क्वालिफाई कर सकते हो. बट मेन ऑडिट
बिल्कुल
रिपोर्ट
बिल्कुल
में आप कहाँ क्वालिफाई करोगे? मेन ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में खाली एनपीए का जो इम्पैक्ट होगा, प्रॉफिट लॉस एसेट लाइफ, बिकॉज मेन रिपोर्ट में भी
बिल्कुल
ओनली सी अबाउट द ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू. वो ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू
बिल्कुल
में आप बराबर क्वालिफिकेशन एमओसी डाल देना, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम द एलएपीआर एनी अदर मैटर फॉर द सेंट्रल स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर, it will come also in the internal control over financial reporting certification qualification.
ओके ओके
Yeah, fine.
ओके
So, fine.
नवनीत जी,
थैंक
इसमें ना सिर्फ एक चीज ऐड
ग्रेट
करूंगा,
लर्निंग सर
अभिजीत
ग्रेट
जी ने
लर्निंग
जो कहा, if they do not allow you to put a MAC, then of course it will become a qualification in the main
Agreed,
report.
agreed,
But
agreed,
when
agreed. But he says he's putting an MOC. If they don't allow an MOC, anyway, we'll have to qualify. But if the
sir,
MOC is being
because
passed,
Abhijit ji, actually what is happening is because the view of the institute is slightly different to the views which most of the banks are now taking as far as KCC is concerned. So what he's saying is 36 months. This is the view which most of the banks are taking now. I have seen a circular which has come, which talks about a crop period of 12 months for short-term crops and 18 months for long-term. This is a circular which has been issued by one of the SLBCs. So I was
ओ माय
asking
गॉड
that question in one of the groups, was that in case you are saying a short-term crop, the crop season itself is 12 months, then how can you give a loan for two crops? Then you are saying that the harvesting period is 12 months, so there cannot be a second crop in a year. But they are giving two crop loans, but still they are claiming the crop period is 12 months, which is absolutely wrong, which
so I
cannot be
note,
practically even possible.
I agree. I note that I am only on the limited point. उसका वो automation का बात था ना, मैं बोला automation के
Uh-huh.
बात पे you can't
So,
qualify
so
the main
this
audit
is,
report. That was the only
yeah.
limited point I was
And
telling you.
of
Yeah.
course, as you said, IFOCR is one of the right places where the flaw in the system itself you can point out in case the branch
Yes,
auditor has
yes,
been
yes.
asked to sign
But
a
then, but then not,
IFOCR.
but then not every branch is required to report on the IFCO-FR. So that is why, that branch, if it's not covered, he will not have that option. But there are some paras in the LFR where he can report that.
See, paras in the LFR में भी लिखो and any other matter for central statutory auditors उसमें
Correct,
भी prominently लिखो. Fine.
correct.
थैंक यू सर
तो
थैंक यू
मैं
सो मच ओके जी राम राम हाँ जी
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the members, for this wonderful attention and all the speakers for this wonderful session.
सर एक
Now,
छोटी
Yeah,
सी
very
क्वेरी
good.
और है
Thanks, everyone.
ये जो सीसी अकाउंट्स है मुद्रा वाले 10-10 लाख वाले इनमें वो बैंक क्या कर रहा है स्टॉक स्टेटमेंट ले रहा है डाटा कलेक्टर की कोई फिगर नहीं ले रहा तो उसमें क्या करें नंबर ऑफ केसेस में यही इशू है
सर, ये मुद्रा लोन के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं जहां पर 10 लाख का सीसी दिया गया है एंड डेटर्स क्रेडिटर की कोई लिस्ट नहीं सबमिट की हुई है बैंक को.
So अभी I'll give you an practical example. अभी हमारे यहाँ एक मुद्रा लोन था, कोई चॉकलेट मैन्युफैक्चरर है, कोई स्टॉक स्टेटमेंट नहीं आ रहा है, कोई बुक डेट स्टेटमेंट नहीं आ रहा है, ऐसी कुछ फिगर आ रहे हैं, ये इतना ये है वो करके कोई इंस्पेक्शन नहीं हुआ है, तो हम बोले चॉकलेट मैन्युफैक्चरर एटलीस्ट चॉकलेट तो हमको दिखाओ उनका नाम का, अगर आ रहा है तो देखेंगे, नहीं तो हम उसको सीधा ये करेंगे कि कुछ है ही नहीं, जस्ट इंटरेस्ट सर्विस हो रहा है, कुछ इंस्पेक्शन नहीं है, कुछ ये नहीं है, ऐसे एक पन्ने का प्रोप्राइटरी स्टॉक स्टेटमेंट है. सो we'll word it appropriately that mudra loans, anyway the mudra loans are centralized, so branch कुछ कर नहीं रही है, monitoring is also very poor. So NPA तो basically interest recover हो रहा है, but कोई turnover नहीं है, कोई transaction नहीं है,
तो फिर
कोई
फाइनेंशियल
monitoring भी
डिफिकल्टी
नहीं
वाला
है.
केस हो गया ना
हाँ, so financially but interest is being served, so on a case to case basis उनसे balance sheet मंगाओ, उनसे inspection करो और फिर take a call. आपके पास टाइम है तो उतना
सर
आप इंसिस्ट
मेरे तो
करो, मैं इंसिस्ट करो कि मैं एनपीए क्लासिफाई कर दूंगा तो उनका बैलेंस शीट आ जाएगा. अगर बैलेंस शीट नहीं आ रहा है और बैलेंस शीट पुअर आ रहा है तो इनहेरेंट वीकनेस है और आपको लगता है ये एनपीए है.
सर कुछ बैंकों ने तो इजी रिन्यूअल शुरू कर दिया अप टू 10 लाख एक एसएमएस जाता है वो यस कर देगा तो उसका सिस्टम में रिन्यूअल मार्क हो जाता है फाइनेंशियल की जरूरत ही नहीं है
Navdeep ji,
हाँ
without
जी सर
financials, Without financials, there cannot be a renewal. Please understand.
सर बैंक का सर्कुलर आ गया है इजी रिन्यूअल
सर्कुलर वो कुछ भी निकालते रहे आप, देर इज अ स्पेसिफिक
हमको उसको
सर्कुलर ऑफ
कैसे
द
टैकल
रिजर्व
करना है,
बैंक
उसको
ऑन
LFR में
रिव्यूज
मेंशन
एंड
करना है, क्या
रिन्यूज।
करना
रिव्यू और रिन्यू के ऊपर एक स्पेसिफिक सर्कुलर है जिसमें उन्होंने कहा है कि अगर फाइनेंशियल्स के बिना देर इज अ रिव्यू और रिन्यूअल विच हैपेंस, इट इज अ मैटर ऑफ अ रेगुलेटरी कंसर्न। तो आप रिव्यू रिन्यूअल प्रोसेस इज नॉट SMS। रिव्यू रिन्यूअल प्रोसेस is not somebody saying yes. It can be in place of a physical request. You can take a request through a SMS maybe. But the process at the bank would require some documents to be verified so that they can decide whether the limit has to be continued. See, understand? So the in place of taking a formal letter from the customer, they take it through a SMS or for which the evidence is maintained. I can still understand. But the process of checking whether the limit has to be continued at the same level or maybe decrease or maybe close, this is something which would require document and cannot be done or through a SMS actually. So this is something which I don't understand that concept actually.
Yes sir, you are perfectly right, पर ये चल रहा है।
नहीं बस एक क्वेश्चन और है सर, मनु जी आप ले लो तो
हाँ,
फटाफट
लास्ट
इसको।
क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं सर, इसके बाद हम लोग वाइंड अप करेंगे। Question is, being a currency chest, there was shortage detected at the time of remittance by the RBI, says amount of rupees 10 lakh. RBI debited the branch by rupees 10 lakh. Branch nullify the entry by debited suspense account and reflected in YSA. Investigation is in process for fixation of liability of custodian and branch has not debited to charges account. Is it the matter of MOC?
So, sir, first thing which I will ask the person is, what is the timelines which there was a shortage which was detected in the that remittance which was done. If there is a timeline of even say something like a month, then it is really a matter of concern. One, there are two issues which are important here. One, there is a cash shortage, and if you look at the master circular of frauds of the Reserve Bank of India, any cash shortage of 5,000 and above or 10,000 for that matter would require a immediate reporting as a fraud. There is no choice given to the bank as to any other choice. Even it talks about a shortage in ATM also requires to be reported as a fraud. So one, you will have to check whether there is a reporting of fraud to the Reserve Bank of India. And secondly, you will have to understand from them as to why it should be considered as an asset, whether there is a recovery which is going to happen from an employee, what is the process there, because in case I would be very reluctant to allow it to continue as an asset. So whether they recover and recover it from somebody, I can still understand. If they do not recover, I would find it very difficult to allow it to continue as an asset in the books of the bank. It may continue with the appropriate provision in the books of account.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time you given to us for enlightening on knowledge, passing knowledge to members for the bank audit. Now I hand over to Sri C. Hariram ji for formal vote of thanks. Over to CA. Please and
Yes, sir. Many thanks to all the learned speakers, and more particularly Abhijit Sangraji sir, Anil ji Saxena, and Lokesh ji Gupta, who have joined in our today's problem resolving and online resolving the problems of bank audit related matters. And thanks to Nitesh ji, who has conceptualized the things, Manu Rishi ji, who has coordinated the program so nicely. And the day after tomorrow, we are hoping also, but I am a little bit doubtful how many queries will be there, because audits are getting wind up and concluding every day. And maybe half of the bank audits will be closed today, and maybe 25% of them will be tomorrow, and remaining maybe some queries, some critical audits may be pending for the day after tomorrow. So we hope better questions, critical questions on the day after tomorrow, problem resolving. So thank you one, and thank you all.
thank you everyone.
Thank you everyone for the for your kind presence. Thank you Lokesh ji, Anil ji, Abhijit ji.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Without you all of it was not possible for us to organize this kind of program. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.